It's not even summer yet and I've already got something on my mind, and I think it's best that I really think about it at this point of year than waiting till last minute, because if we do spend any amount of time in this caravan through winter, it definitely needs to be ready. Since this is our first time owning a static caravan, we've basically got no idea whatsoever about the heating costs through winter. But more importantly, we don't know what's the best way to heat a caravan. So I've been going through quite a few different options. So when it comes to keeping warm in a caravan through winter, I'm very new to this. This is our first static caravan, so we've never been through that situation. So what I want to do is rely on you guys to offer me some advice. I will ask people when I see them on the site to find out what they do, but I'm pretty sure that the people out there that are watching these videos have been in this situation before. So I think your advice would be invaluable to help us get through autumn and winter if needs be, without it costing us a fortune. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I've read online, and if you want to, just comment below and just let me know if you think that's a good idea or a bad one. And then at least that way I can break a list down and get a bunch of suggestions that are more feasible for anybody living in a caravan on a budget. And if anybody's wondering why on some of the videos the comments are now turned off, that's because of people posting links to websites that's nothing to do with me. You get that sometimes on YouTube. Somebody will see a lot of views on a particular video and then just start posting random links to all sorts of different websites. So for now, I've turned those comments off and I'm going to go through the options, because I know there is some where you can sort it out so that people can't post links in the comments of any of your videos, because we want to keep this channel about what it's about and nothing else. So if you were wondering about that, you now know why that's occurred. I think one of the most obvious things that people think about when it comes to eating a small space is an electric fan heater. But I used to work at various places and there was really big buildings, one of them being a market. But behind the market stalls, every market stall had an electric meter and you could just pop £1 in it and you'd got a socket. So I bought an electric fan heater, and whether it was the cost of the electric in that particular building or just the way it is, I don't know. But I would put that heater on quite low. I never had it on full, and that pound didn't seem to last very long at all. So I'm not thinking about going down the route of electric heaters, which are the ones that blow hot air, unless you guys know of one that's very economical. The second thing that's pretty obvious, I would think, to anybody, and it's something we've always done, is an electric blanket. You can pop that on an hour or so before you go to bed. When you get in that bed, it's nice and toasty. And as soon as you get in bed, you can turn it off, and if you're tired, you'll be on your way in no time. So that part is not an issue. It's when you're actually in the living area of this caravan. Somebody has suggested underfloor heating. I don't know how much that will cost to do all the way through a 37 foot by 12 foot static caravan. But once again, maybe you guys know the answer to that. And more importantly, if it actually makes that much difference for the amount of money it's going to cost you initially. Another one which is quite obvious, extra blankets and duvets. But once again, that's back to the bedroom and it's quite obvious. But one thing that could be quite useful is just having a spare duvet, so when you sat on this settee watching TV, you can just have a duvet over you, and that's going to take the edge off it. But I always find that the feet get cold first, and because the floor of the caravan is the closest part to the ground, which is freezing, it might also be a good idea to get some extra thick rugs just to put at the front of this settee, or maybe some scatter rugs that you can just throw about in various places, especially that kitchen, because it's got a laminate flooring. That's going to be so cold. We don't want that. Little things like that we can tweak as we go, as we can with curtains because you can get thermal curtains. So we can hang curtains over the curtains that's already on there, doubling up that thickness, but also adding a thermal layer to it, which is something we're definitely going to be looking into, because a lot of the heat from a caravan escapes through your windows and the cold comes in. One thing that's probably not so obvious, to me at least, is getting that boiler serviced. I have been told by the previous owner that it was serviced last year, but I can't find a certificate. So rather than take that chance, I think it's probably a good idea that if you're unsure of the date when that boiler will last serviced, it's best to have it checked out, because a qualified engineer will look at that and he will be able to tell you if anything is on its way out. Not quite there yet, but we know exactly if that occurs, when it will occur. And that'll be just as it drops to -4, and then you've got no heating at all. This caravan has got double glazed windows as well, so that's going to help to some extent. And a lot of static caravans, especially the newer models, have central heating. This one, however, doesn't. It's just got a gas fire, which is connected to that big gas canister outside. And after having a quick look at that, I think to install central heating in a caravan that's not that new, not knowing exactly how long you're going to be in it, then comes down to cost effectiveness. If it's going to cost you £3,000 or £4,000 to install central heating and you're only here for a couple of years, you're never going to get that money back. And will it actually save you any money through those colder months by having that? And if it's definitely worth doing, even if it's only going to be done for 3 to 4 years, or maybe it's one I should swerve. And of course, another obvious thing to do is check in your caravan for drafts. You'll not notice them through spring and summer, but you'll very quickly notice them once it gets to autumn and winter. So it would be a good idea to check everything and make sure that something doesn't need an extra seal to stop that cold creeping in, which is something I'm going to be looking into over the next few weeks, just so we know that part is sorted. Of course, when it comes to heating a caravan through autumn and winter, you've also got another problem. We have got lots and lots of vents in every single room in this caravan. There's about 8 just in this area that goes from here into that kitchen. So it's very ventilated. But if you're heating this internally, there's a very good chance for autumn and winter that you're going to get damp. And damp leads to mould, and that leads to rot. The floors in these caravans are made of wood, which is why I was in such a hurry to get that toilet fixed. But if we start getting mould and damp, that could lead to rot, and then we're going to have even bigger problems, and it can also cause health problems on top. So I'm thinking about buying one of those big electric dehumidifiers. I've never had one before. I don't know which is the best sort to buy. I also don't know how effective they will be in a caravan, but it's definitely something worth looking into, because I don't think they're that expensive, and it might be something we definitely need. We're relying on those little plastic boxes that you get that draw the water out of air, and we have got quite a few around this caravan, but I think that would be much more effective. But if you know different, let me know. You can also get pipe heaters, and I have been interested in trying those, but I've had mixed reviews on them. You can get them as short as a foot long, and then they go up to 3 and 4 feet, and obviously the price depends on the length of it, and they also run at a very low wattage. But exactly how much heat does one of those provide? Maybe you'd need a couple in just one area like this to feel any warmth from it at all. Or do they get red hot? And I assume they'll have thermal cut-offs inside, so once they reach a certain temperature, they'll go off. Not sure if you can get those with timers on or anything like that, which would be another good thing to think about. If we do find an heater that's really cost effective, it would be a good idea to have 1 or 2 on a timer. So you could put one in bedroom, aerate that place as well at the same time to prevent that damp and mould, while the electric blanket is warming your bed up, and just set it for a certain time and then to go off. Unfortunately for me, I kind of never know when I'm going to bed, and I know the electric blankets don't really use much of anything, so I'll sort that out as we get closer to that time. But it would definitely worth having something in the living area Something that can come on early morning. You know you're going to get up at a certain time, and once you get in here, it's nice and warm, because there's nothing worse than getting out of bed and walking into a cold room. But they're pipe heaters, and like I say, the prices vary depending on where you're buying from and the length. But how economical are they? And more importantly, are they actually any good? And then you've got panel heaters, the really skinny ones that's rectangle in shape, and you just fix them to a wall. I've had those in the past, and the one I had said it used something like 7p an hour. But that was a few years ago, so maybe now they use quite a lot more. Or, once again, don't they provide as much heat as you think? You can get them as low as 400 watts that I've seen. Maybe there's lower ones, but I did see them at 400 watts, and then they go right up to 2000. So I'm looking for something that is cost effective. I don't want something that runs at 2000 watts. I don't want a gas fire on full all night. Although I will admit that last night I made a bit of a mistake. It dropped a little cool last night, and so we popped that gas fire on, and to save gas we turned it down really low, and when I got up this morning I turned it off because I completely forgot about it, which is a pretty stupid thing to do in a caravan. It's on such a low light and the wind is constantly blowing everywhere, and you never know if that flame could have got blown out. So it could have been sat there for around 8 hours just leaking gas into this caravan, and that was quite frightening when I got it this morning and realised that that fire, although on low, was still on. It's also obviously wasted quite a bit of gas. How much, I don't know, because this is his first time using a gas canister to see how long it lasts, but that definitely did not help. But at least that's all that happened. So for definite in the future, I'm going to stick a note on that fireplace saying check the fire. We don't want to do that again, because it could have been a lot worse than it was. We've also got one of those little fires, the ones that are on wheels in the metal casing, and you put a 35 kilo can in it of gas and you can just wheel them from one place to another. And that had a little bit of gas in it when we got here, and I think it's still got a little bit in now, so they don't seem to take up too much gas, but they do provide instant heat. But once again, you've got to keep that well away from anything that could catch fire. And sometimes for me personally, I can find them a little bit overpowering, and I also don't want to leave something like that on and then go to bed. So all that will be another alternative to that gas fire. I think that's best used as a backup, just in case that gas canister runs out and we can't get one because it's early evening and everything's closed up. And we can just wheel that in and we've still got some heat until we replace the main gas canister. But the bedroom areas are quite small. There's not a lot of room around that bed. So I don't want to be wheeling something into the doorway of that place to try and take edge off, just in case it sets fire to any blankets or anything, because that would be an absolute disaster. So that is something to put just in front of us on very low, but only used in an emergency. We've also got to think about something else as well. Once again, something I'd not considered. Cladding on all the pipes. We need to check all that. A lot of people, when they leave the caravan, they do what's called draining down, which is emptying the entire water system. And they do that for a reason, because if it drops too cold and the water freezes in some pipes, as it thaws, it expands, and that's going to burst your pipes. So you don't want to be in a position where you come into your caravan or getting a phone call while you're away to find out that your caravan has flooded. Another absolute disaster if that happens, and that's something I've not checked yet, and that's because we're just getting ready for summer and you don't want to think about ice and snow and freezing temperatures. But as somebody's commented on channel before, it's best that you do it now so you know that's done in preparation. Nobody wants to be crawling underneath your vans, cladding the pipes in freezing temperatures. So that's something that's definitely going to get looked at. I'm going to go out maybe sometime tomorrow. I'll get under that van because that water piping is obviously connected to various things around this van, including an automatic washing machine that's outside, and there is an outside tap as well. We'll need to wrap that up in a lot of bubble wrap because we don't want it to freeze at all, and then we'll go under the van and then we'll clad all the pipes. I'm hoping they're already done, but adding an extra layer to those pipes can't hurt. It's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to a possibility of flooding your caravan at the worst possible time of year. I've seen those little plug-in devices, they're all over the internet, and they say they can heat a room up in like 10 minutes and they only use a few watts, but they're just tiny little things that you plug in. I don't think they're any good at all. I think that is false advertising. It's got to be for a device that's so small and also uses very little energy. But maybe you've had one and you'll be able to answer that question better than me. Maybe they are rubbish, or maybe they're better than you think. Maybe it's one of those things you could put into a very small area just to keep it aired out. And that's something that we need to do all the way through those months. So we've gone through lots and lots of different ways of keeping warm in a caravan. But we've also thrown out there quite a few eating options as well. So hopefully you guys that's already been there and done that will be able to chuck me a few comments and advise me on what's the best thing to use in a 37 foot by 12 foot static caravan through autumn and winter, that's not only going to keep the place warm but be cost effective at the same time. And I'm kind of hoping you don't come back and say there isn't really anything. It's going to cost you a fortune, sell your van. Anyway, thank you once again for being part of this channel, and I'm looking forward to all your comments. I'll make sure that the comments are left turned on this video, and then I'll get into the settings and try and find out how I can stop people putting all these links to different websites in the comments. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to those replies. And if you want to see what we're going to be talking about next as we approach summer, then please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you on next update. You all take care.